Okay, so in our output configuration, we need to know what our specific outputs are set at here for the wiring configuration we're working with. I have a list that I have populated here. I just wrote this down for my specific harness that I've made up here. So I just made a bridge harness between the factory wiring and the Max, so I can just do a quick plug and play and swap out between various other standalone systems. Now I know all of the wiring details in terms of the inputs and outputs, and you would want to know this if you have an engine harness built for your vehicle from a harness manufacturer. You'd want to know all the inputs and outputs, so you can set all these details up. So in this case, I know what I need to set things at. Now, my GPO3, and this is all going to be low side outputs or sending a ground out. This is going to be configured here as always on. Now this is a little bit unique setting it to always on, but this is going to be turning on anytime the ignition key is turned on. This is going to be turning on the main relay, which is going to then power the harness and make all of the sensors work that are referencing anything with a 12 volt. So for something like our speed sensor, for example, or our camera crank sensors, those all get a 12 volt reference in the harness. So we need to make sure that this output is set to always on. So anytime the ignition key is on, the Max is powered on, it automatically sends an always on state, and it grounds the main relay, which then turns the power distribution on for the harness. So that's very important. Every K-Series is going to have something like that if you're using factory wiring. Okay, so the next output we have to configure here is our fuel pump. Super important. So let's go to our GPO 5. So general purpose output 5. And we can see right here, it is defaulted to fuel pump relay. Now on the Max wiring, usually, or the Max base maps and the Max wiring, the output 5 is fuel pump and output 6 is cooling fan relay. So both of these are already set up. Now one thing to note here, if we go up into test, this turns the pump on, and I actually can hear that pump prime. When I'm doing this, I can hear the pump prime. Now I want to go to the idle area here, and I want to just quickly take a look. If we go to the fuel pump relay, and if I go to test, we see our pressure peaks here about 370 kPa. So that's actually the base pressure in my fuel system, approximately 370, 375. I just want to note that. Radiator fan is going to be set here for GPO 6. Now let's go make sure that this actually works. If you can hear that, the fan actually turns on out there, so that is functional. We'll make sure it's actually functional. So we verified now the fuel pump works, the cooling fan works, some of the basics. Taking a look here next, our GPO 7 is set for the VTEC control solenoid, or the variable cam control solenoid. So let's go ahead and set that. So right now that's set to disable, but we're going to go into VVT, and this is going to be our VVT single solenoid advance. And what's going to happen here is when I select this, it's going to populate on my left-hand pane here the VVT editing options that previously wasn't available. So we're going to go back in and take a look at that. TAC output is set to our GPO 8. Yep, GPO 8. And then in this case, the lambda heater is not going to be something we work with here because we don't have that built-in wideband. Now, there are going to be two general purpose outputs on my race box here. They're going to be for high side output, or 12 volt output. We're going to use our GPO 15 to power on the VTEC solenoid to turn on our VTEC function. So we're going to go here to the select, and then in here, we're going to be going and configuring this user output. Let's do a user output. So I'm calling it a generic. It's going to be user output here. So let's go to a OK for the user output, and then we can set our conditions here for our VTEC to activate, and we'll just talk about that here in a second. So we've configured now all of the details that we need to populate for the output control. Let's go in here and just take a look at our TAC output and make sure this is right. So the enable tachometer output, we see it's enable. The enable output voltage, we're going to do it as a 12 volt. We're going to have a 4-cylinder count, TAC wave type, simple 50% duty cycle, RPM sweep at ignition on, we'll have that enable. Calibration mode, single value, TAC adjustment. This allows you to, if your TAC's off a little bit from your actual engine speed, you can adjust it here, so that's fine. That should work. So the cooling fan, I'm going to turn the cooling fan on at, let's say, 190, and it'll turn off once it drops 4 degrees below that. So 186 will turn it off. That way it doesn't cycle the fan back on and off quickly. Disable above speed, 62 mile per hour, that's fine. Run fan on AC. Now we don't have AC configured here, so I'm going to leave that disabled. Disable fan when engine is off. We'll know that's going to allow the fan to run if the engine's hot and we have the key on. And then post shutdown cooling requires ECU power relay. We're gonna leave that disabled. I don't have that configured. So let's go here to user output real quick.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.